Hello, welcome back to another episode of Zevo Talks. Today we are joined by Ciara Conolly. We're going to look at the area of mental health and adolescence and how basically as adults, important people within this age group, we can support them. So we're going to start off and just welcome Ciara on. Ciara, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello. Lovely to see you.
Always a pleasure to talk to you. I suppose, can we just start off with telling us a bit about yourself? I know you've been on before, but just to rejig our memories.
Yeah, so my name is Ciara Conolly. I'm an integrative counsellor and wellbeing specialist here at Zevo Health. So just a little bit about my practice. It's quite diverse. I'm working with teenagers and young adults in supporting them through studies, through soothing and regulating difficult emotions and talking about bullying and managing academic stress, really. And then I'm also supporting adults and parents as well with self-care, work-life balance, and supporting their loved ones too. So basically, the way that I work is that my therapeutic models are grounded in the humanistic approach. So basically what that means is that when I meet an individual, depending on what they bring to the session, we then build the therapy model around them rather than having a model ready to go and then meeting the client and working in that kind of structured way. So I truly believe that there's no one size fits all when it comes to therapy and self-care. And it's really about getting to know one another, getting to know yourself and developing a model from that. So it's great to be here again and chatting with you, Michelle. Thank you very much for having me today.
I think we might just start off by having a little look at what exactly is teen mental health. How is it different from even childhood mental health or adult mental health? What's kind of the differentiation factors there?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose that it is important that we consider that mental health, mental health is mental health. I would believe that there's seven different factors that contribute to our well-being. So you have your physical, your social, your financial, your intellectual, and your environment, all the rest of it as well. But obviously with age, it's going to vary a little bit. Maybe the different influential factors and protective factors might differ. So for example, depression in an adolescent and depression in an adult, they probably feel the same. However, they might present differently. Okay, so an adult may be able to articulate themselves a lot better. Maybe they've had experience with it before, or they might have a more clear sign of where they can go around this. So they can say, okay, I'm going to go to my GP, I'm going to go to a counsellor, or something like that. But then when we're talking about the mental health of the young people in this country, they might not have the tools and the coping skills to deal with the emotional experience of, let's say, anxiety and depression. But also as well, I'm sure we can both reflect back to our times being teenagers. It's quite turbulent. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. We think of, even our education system. Quite intense. You've got huge expectations there. You're studying so many different topics, lots and lots of homework. I can remember doing homework for hours even after when I'd come home. And then you've got your family, you've got friends, you've got your extracurricular activities that you want to be doing. So with age just comes different problems. Okay, there's different expectations there, so that's going to require different coping skills. And when you're an adolescent teen, we're kind of in the trial and error phase, really trying to learn different skills, different things. So it's important that our relationships also change as we get older. So if we think about childhood, our relationships with our parents and our family, that evolves for sure. In our adolescence, we're kind of fighting for this independence, but yet we still need the support of our loved ones. And when we go to adulthood, sure, we can reflect back again, kind of stepping out, going to college, maybe moving out home. That's, there's a whole new set of fears there as well. So because, the whole reason we have those kind of labels, childhood, adolescent, young adult, and adulthood, is because we know that when we're talking about those different sections, we kind of have an idea of different challenges and skills that are kind of represented by that term. So when it comes to kind of, in short, then to answer your question, it absolutely does change and vary because the life experience varies, expectations are going to vary, and the importance of our relationships are going to change too.
Mm-hmm. I thought of something you said before we actually started the recording. We were chatting yesterday, but I thought was very interesting. It was basically teen mental health or adolescent mental health, should I say? Whatever way you look at it, it's quite a broad range. It's not exactly teen. It's not 13 to 18 or 12 to 20 or
Yeah,
that sort of thing. It can go to 25. And like as
yeah,
you just said there, like there is such a pressure on younger like teens up to kind of mid-20s to kind
hmm
of, you need to have it figured out and you need to have a general direction. And I don't know about you, but when I was, I don't know, when I was mid-teens, early 20s, I didn't know. There is a
yeah.
lot of pressure put on everyone. And even that kind of, it's not, there's not a cut-off point to what time you, what stage or what age you do need to have things figured out by.
Yeah, and that's really important. Yeah, we touched on this a little bit yesterday. So in a sense that let's say we start school, let's say we go into like secondary school around like 12. Okay.
Mm,
So we're seeing that huge change straight away coming from primary school
yeah.
then into secondary school. But as you said, it doesn't stop when you turn 18. It's not
Yeah.
like you go, oh, okay, I'm an adult now, all my problems are solved. No, we get dealt a whole new deck of
Yeah.
different challenges and problems. And it's really important that when we talk about kind of adolescence and teens, I don't like putting huge like numbers on it, being like, okay, adolescence
Yeah.
stops at 18. We know that these turbulent times continue the whole way as we're evolving into adults. And we can see a lot with kind of community-based services, thankfully here in Ireland, such as Jigsaw, that they are very inclusive of that age range, supporting people from the ages of 12 all the way up to 25. So it's super important for any teenagers or young adults listening today, or even parents listening, that we constantly need support. We all need those people to rely on, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's really important that we recognize that once we finish school, we don't need to have anything figured out. We should want to explore things for ourselves to find let's say an occupation that's going to allow us to love our job and also give us that financial benefit to have the things that we want to have as well. But to be mindful of the expectations that are definitely put on us from school, from society, and just kind of sitting with them and being like, okay, is this my expectation for myself? Do I want this, or is this everyone else telling me that I need it? But yeah, for sure, this continues the whole way through life, but it's definitely probably the most intense kind of all the way up to like our late 20s, early 30s for sure.
Yeah, that's good news and bad news, I suppose. Ciara, I suppose, like, if you think about it, like, we weren't at that stage too long ago without giving, giving
Yeah.
away too much. And even in the last 10, 15 years, the struggles that people that are, like, the youth, as we might joke,
Yeah.
are, like, it's a completely different set of issues.
hmm
Well, maybe not completely, but there's a lot of different things that younger people would deal with now that we didn't have to deal with. Like, I remember when I was in school, I think, like, Instagram, the monster that it is today, I only got that when I finished secondary school.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
I obviously there was a different set of issues and struggles and whatever, but I can't imagine if you had to throw that into the mix. Just the
Yeah.
world is evolving and everything's changing every day and every year. And there's just so many different things. Like, what would you say are the factors facing and stressing out teens and
Mm.
adolescents?
Yeah, well, as you said, it's kind of hard to really pinpoint it exactly because it is changing so much. I'm the eldest of four, and sometimes I see what my youngest siblings doing, and I'm like, "That you're doing what now? What happened?" Like, I'm like, I'm too young to not be able to follow to keep up with them. But it's changing super super fast. So when it comes to kind of looking at, okay, what are the main issues that teens are facing today? One of my favorite surveys that have been done so far are the My World survey. So you have My World survey 1, which is on 2012 or 14, I believe, and then we had a second survey which delved into it a little bit deeper and had a bit more of a broader scope. And we're definitely ready for My World survey 3. It would be fantastic to see what comes next. But yeah, so what we're seeing at the moment is, I kind of touched this before, is that the academic stress, exams, homework, that is a really, really high stress factor that we're seeing for teens at the moment. Concerns about the future as well, which I suppose when you hear the first one, it doesn't sound too surprising that, that would kind of come naturally, because why are we doing the exams? Probably for the CAO and different courses, and, to have the finances to build whatever the life we want is. Finance actually interestingly enough, for me, when I first remember reading this, that finances was quite stressful for the young people of Ireland today. Finances with regards to, okay, I want to do all these things. Do I have the money to do it? But also finances with regards to, we're living in a cost of living crisis, and that's impacting the family and the family structures. And teens that are aware of this, they hear of this as well. So they also have concerns about the stability of their family, and maybe concerns for their siblings or family members as well with regards to finances. Body image is one that comes up and is talked about a lot. Thankfully, with the work that this study has done, it really did gear a lot of supports. So we're seeing a lot of kind of workshops and trainings being done in schools with regards to some of the issues that I'm mentioning here today. Bullying is something that was there. I remember even when I was in school, there was huge initiatives around raising awareness around bullying and kind behavior and unkind behavior, and what to do if you see someone who is being bullied, how to support one another. So relationships are going to be huge for teenagers. The success of relationships, the failure of relationships, bullying, and that also extends to their family as well. So not just their friends in school, their family, feeling that support and love when they come home, and how their family are doing as well. Remember, who we surround ourselves with is going to influence how we feel, and if we know or can recognize someone else is struggling, that may have an impact on us as well, of how we're feeling. So these are probably the most popular issues that the teenagers are experiencing today. And some of the statistics from my World Survey too, that kind of jumped out at me, and I thought would be really great to mention, just to try and add to. I want to talk a little bit about stigma later on, in the podcast, but just to kind of get a grasp on what teenage mental health is and how it is affecting the younger population in Ireland, is that the survey found that 40% of levels of depression from the survey were outside of the normal range. 49% of the levels of anxiety were outside of the normal range of the people who participated in the study. So we're seeing quite high levels of depression and anxiety in these young people. Interestingly enough, I wish I was a part of that study, but 96% of the participants had social media profiles. And as we were saying there, like, social media blew up when we were kind of in school and stuff like that. And interestingly, with that, this research found that 2/3 of that 96% spent more than 2 hours a day on their phone. But the remaining 4%, the remaining third, they had spent less than 2 hours on their phone. And this was linked to lower levels of depression and anxiety. So they didn't have, they were within that normal range. But interestingly, they had lower support from friends, and a lower perceived of support focused coping. So isn't that very interesting? Because we often see the phone painted as the bad guy. And obviously, I think we've spoken about this before in a couple of episodes back, the impact of social media on our wellness and with regards to self-care. But also it serves so many positives as well. And we find those who spent a little bit less found that the connection and the support from their friends was that little bit lower. So I'm curious, it's all about kind of finding this balance for the teenagers in Ireland today, but with everything else that they're having to do. This is just one more thing that we can figure out. But thankfully, with the support of parents, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, GPs, our family as well, hopefully today, at the end of the podcast, we have some idea of how we can actually achieve that balance, or support adolescents in actually cultivating that for themselves.
I suppose, Ciara, interesting there is like the chat and the use of the phone. Like, so often the phone is like, it's painted with the most negative brush. Yeah. And it's very much like, reduce this, reduce that, and whatever. But like, I think we all know as well, there's so many different positive ways that we can all use our phone. And let's face it, everyone has a phone. So it does seem a bit silly almost to just paint it with the negative brush. Like, I know for myself, I am bad and I hold my hand up. I do spend too much time on social media, but I also use it for positive things. Like
Yeah.
I'll use it every day for even just basic stuff. Spotify. I'll go out and I'll listen to a podcast for an hour while I'm walking. Like technically
Yeah.
I'm using my phone there. I'll use it for a meditation app. Yeah, technically
Yeah.
I'm using my phone. That's positive. That's adding to my overall well-being.
Yeah.
Like it is very easy to just automatically the phone is negative. But like also the connection. The last few years we've been through, and like right now the two of us are chatting over Teams.
Yeah.
We're not sitting together.
Yeah.
Like the connection a phone can give two people that might not see each other from one end of the month to the other.
Well, I suppose the key thing is there is that you're able to tell me all the positive things that you do with your phone, and it allows you access to so many things. And then I suppose that really is the key point. It's how we're accessing the phone, how we're utilizing it. And when we are, on certain applications and apps, how does it make me feel?
Yeah.
And how are we talking to ourselves while we're using them? So what this kind of study really showed us was the fact that 96% had phones, had social media. That's absolutely fine, but two-thirds were spending more than 2 hours a day on those social media apps, and they were having higher levels of anxiety and depression. And the ones who were spending less time on the phone, they had less of the anxiety and depression, but also they found that their connection and the perceived kind of strength of their social support was less. So what we want to be having a look at here really is, it's not really much the time. It's not really, whether, social media is bad or good, because a lot of the time I know that parents will take the phones away. And as you said, it's a source of connection. It's a source of catching up with people after the day of school and bonding, and also researching. And we find so much interesting stuff online. And also for the laughs, there's some really funny things online too that can give us a sense of joy when we need it, when we're taking a break from study and whatnot. But anyways, go back to the point is, when we're on social media, we want to be mindful of those comparison behaviors. We want to be mindful of the phone being able to connect people anywhere in the world, as you said, but it's for kind talk, it's for positive talk, and it's not for bullying or for judgment. So really what we want to do is for people to have a healthy connection with social media and with their phones, allow them the freedom to use it as to research those interests and to talk to who they do they want to, but for it to be safe, which can be really, really difficult, because one of the things adolescents really want is that independence, the choice to make their own decisions. So how do we, as as parents, say, or for myself as a big sister or a cousin or an aunt, how do I help them to make the right decisions? And really it's through that open discussion and showing the positive and negative sides of social media. And trying best to have a balance. If we're spending so much time on our phone, we still want to make sure that we have the time to do the other things that we enjoy, such as look after our hygiene, see our family, visit our friends, and do those extracurricular activities. So yeah, it's really about how we're using the phone. That's what's going to impact the way that we feel.
Absolutely. We had someone on the podcast a while ago, and I can't remember who for the life of me, but there was one thing, and it was very much like, which is kind of, I suppose, someone maybe at the adolescent stage might enjoy, but at the end of the day, we're in control of how we use our phone, what we follow, what we engage with, like the likes of I'm just going to use Instagram for the example here. I know there's obviously other networks that we're probably too old to understand, but Instagram, you can follow people that you don't like, and you can give out about them, but why would you want that? Follow pages that just say, I like following like a lot of pages that put up nice stuff about well-being, about dogs, about food, about different stuff going on around Dublin that I can go to and stuff like that, different restaurants, stuff that will basically at the end of the day will give me some pleasure and enjoyment. So it's just kind of about taking the step back and how do I actually want to use this? Because I think we'd all find it very, very hard to all of a sudden not.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm it's like when we see statistics like this, we can really just say, 2/3 had high levels of anxiety, depression throughout the phones. That's kind of it. But we have to keep reading and see. Okay, so there was also positive too. Is curate a feed that makes you feel good. If you notice that there are people that aren't making you feel good, hide their profiles. If you can, block them. remove them from that follow list. You know, even the likes of like TikToks and stuff like that, you can, if ads even or videos come up, you can hold it down and say I'm not interested in this and provide that feedback. You know, there's an algorithm there for a reason. We can actually tap into that algorithm to help our mental health, but unfortunately if we're engaging with the wrong things, it can actually have the opposite effect. So it's all about using social media mindfully and then helping teens to have those tools and that information so they can make that decision for themselves as they grow older and hopefully have a positive relationship with social media and the internet and all the wonderful things that it has to offer.
Zevo is a fully integrated workplace wellbeing provider. We understand that every company has different goals, needs, and characteristics. Our team of psychologists, performance nutritionists, and experts in the field of physical health conduct in-depth research and thereafter develop and tailor strategic corporate wellbeing programs based on the outcome for each organisation. Our health and wellbeing technology helps take the pulse of your employees' wellbeing needs and promote positive engagement in your organisation's wellbeing programs, encouraging them to move, nourish and inspire. Our broad range of services, available both online and on-site, are designed to improve employees' overall well-being and increase engagement within the workplace. We aim to create the healthiest workplace across the globe to ensure that your most important asset, your employees, are energized and thriving. Contact us today to start your workplace well-being journey. www.zevohealth.com.
And, you know, even with, you know, we're kind of talking about the importance of open conversation and stuff, the support that adolescents receive is so helpful. So the My World 2 survey, it surveyed just under 10,500 people from the ages of 12 to 19 in Irish schools. Like, that's a huge study considering what our population would have been like 4 million back then, you know. So it was absolutely fantastic. And we found that, you know, the family and friends and this, what My World survey one found was that the positive impact of having one good adult. Okay, so 76% of people say that they have an adult that they can turn to, and this person is, you know, available to them, and they're more available to them for like advice and just to talk to them without that piece of judgment. Those people did present themselves in the normal range of anxiety and depression. So having that support that you can turn to when you feel that you can speak openly and freely, that is worth its weight in gold. Because you know, when we think about everything we went through as teenagers, all the different questions here in terms that we haven't heard before, no, it's a very, very confusing time. So having a soundboard that you can kind of air this stuff out to is so important. Other things that really help and that's important for teenagers, and I'm sure teenagers have heard this from their parents, and parents have heard this from the likes of myself, but sleep is so important. It's important to us at all ages, but it's something that adolescents seem to kind of struggle with. 53% had quite low sleep hygiene. So this is going to have an impact on your physical and your mental well-being. It can also contribute to the stress that we're having at school as well, because we're not coming in with enough fuel in the tank essentially for a very, very difficult day. But thankfully that we actually see that young adults, so this is between the 19 to 25-year-olds, that this does improve, and about 62% showed that they had quite good hygiene. So if we can support teens in learning about the importance of sleep and trying to help them to establish a routine where they can get everything done that they want to in the day, but still get that kind of 8 to 9 hours sleep, that would be absolutely fantastic. Again, as always, exercise is super important. It's linked to improved well-being, and then also having fun, making sure that it's time for the extracurricular activities, especially, you know, when you're in school and you're dealing with all of these stresses. I'm going through this kind of ever-changing phase in our lives. Sometimes it can feel like the end of the world and it can feel also consuming. So, you know, it's important that we're encouraging teens to take breaks, and we're kind of creating a routine for them to allow them to have breaks. The expectations that we have for them aren't going to be consuming and overwhelming for them, that they are realistic and they do kind of fit within their own needs.
So, Ciara, you mentioned some kind of misconceptions surrounding teenage behaviour for, like, with people that, I don't know, they might have had children older, so like they're kind of their own experience doesn't seem as relevant to, you know, that kind of something happened 20 years ago. I remember when I was a kid even, and my mum would used to talk, or I think it was our intra cert or something, which for us was the junior cert.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, oh my God, that's a million years. It didn't seem relevant. So I suppose like having that kind of like understanding between and understanding different misconceptions and just where the behaviour and where they're coming from, really.
Yeah. So exactly. So like the school system has changed so much. Like even I hear like say like some of my cousins talking about they got H2s and H3s, and I'm like, what's in exams?
Yeah, straight
I'm like,
over my head. That sounds like a bus number.
So it is, you know, like when we think about education, it's completely changed, but also society is changing all of the time. There's different trends, different values always kind of being prompted at us, but also as well, we're talking about mental health today. Mental health has changed. Our conversations around mental health has changed, and that's probably like one of the biggest ones, especially when we're thinking of teens mental health. And one of the things I've talked about today is that one good adult, and exactly what that is having that one person that teens can turn to, and that being really, really supportive for their mental health. But the attitudes towards mental health across, you know, the different age ranges in society today, it differs. So one of the biggest misconceptions that I have experienced, and what we see kind of published a lot of the time, is that belief that teenagers don't have anything to be depressed about. It's just moodiness. Now, of course, moods, they're real. They do fluctuate. There's a lot of huge hormonal changes that are going on, and there's a huge lot of stress with the transition period that they're going through. So obviously they're going to feel overwhelmed from time to time, going through that transition from like childhood to teenager to adult, you know, for being dependent to independent and fighting for that independence when the parents are like, no, you're not just an adult just yet, you know. So it's that is true. There is going to be moodiness there, okay? But they're called mood swings for a reason. They swing, they come and they go. Whereas if you're noticing the same kind of mood over a period of 2 weeks, it is possible that they could be experiencing a period of anxiety or depression, or there is something significant happening in their life that is having an impact on their mood. At this point, we need to check in. They absolutely do have a lot of things going on that are going to have a significant influence on their mental health, and sometimes they need the additional support to find the coping skills and the tools to deal with that. Another one that maybe from either from kind of older generations or people who aren't very sure about mental health is that they perceive mental health to be violent, and adolescents with mental health issues can be something to be afraid of. Now, there are some mental health issues that can cause us to be violent or have violent behaviors, but not all of them. Like, we shouldn't be afraid of anxiety and depression. Remember, these are moods. We all experience feelings of anxiety, like feeling anxious or maybe a little bit panicked or afraid of something. And we all feel sad from time to time. You know, there's sometimes we believe that what an adult is feeling is different to what a child is feeling. Remember, I was saying that they often kind of feel the same, but the way that an adult can communicate it and a teenager communicate, that's where the difference can be. So even though behaviors can seem kind of quite erratic, or maybe they're angry and we have the mood swings, that is communication there. That's something isn't feeling good, something isn't right. Another one is that parents are the cause. Yeah, one thing I've spoken about the whole way through this podcast is being a one good adult, parents having these open conversations, people around the teens having these open conversations. And I hope, it's really important at this point we just pause for a second and recognize that parents have their own lives and their own responsibilities. They have to look after themselves as well. Parent self-care, and anyone who is a carer of a teenager or loves a teenager or knows a teenager, there is that we sometimes do feel that pressure that's there. It's really important that you care for yourself. And often you might hear comments or remarks passed that the parents caused that, or parents feeling it's my fault. Now, early traumatic experiences can trigger the onset of mental health issues, but a lot of the time it's genetics, it's environmental, and has absolutely nothing to do with the parents. Okay, so if you are listening here here today, don't forget that as much as it is important to look after the teens and the young people that we have in our life that we love so much, it is super, super important for you to look after yourself. And it can be difficult, you know, living and dealing and watching someone go through this really difficult transition. If you would like to talk to someone, please reach out to the GP, reach out to the counsellor. Being a parent is one of the hardest jobs in the world, and then you have people with multiple children as well. So do look after yourself, okay? And talking about looking after ourselves, there's also the misconception that teenagers can't be diagnosed with mental health issues or diagnosis at this early stage in their life. So this can be true for some mental health illnesses. They are diagnosed at adolescence, but for the likes of anxiety and depression, the two that we've mainly really kind of spoken about today, these absolutely can be diagnosed at young age. More often than not, they actually mental health issues present themselves in our earlier phases of life. So if you are noticing these changes within the children and the young adults around you, please encourage them to go to the GP. Sometimes we hear that medication isn't needed, but it absolutely can be beneficial. Just as it's beneficial to adults, it can be beneficial for adolescents too. But again, go to the GP and they'll be able to help you with that. That's really, really important that we keep in touch with that primary care service.
I suppose then we might have a quick look at basically just like the whole kind of area of reframing our idea about teenage mental health. As you said, like it can be, I don't know, it can be very easy for you to close your eyes to heaven, that sort of thing. Whereas we actually, it is important to take it seriously, look out for the signs, and kind of, if it does arise, deal with it properly.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose now is a really good time to just touch base on what I've been using the phrase one good adult to really just hone down on exactly what that is. So it's all about, you know, with teenage mental health, we want to be having these open conversations with the parents, the aunts and uncles, everyone about mental health and how it can affect ourselves, but also the teenagers around us. We want to be addressing that stigma, and it's through conversations like we're having today, through psychoeducation, that we'll be able to address those boundaries that are there and those misconceptions that we spoke about there just a few minutes ago. Remember to link in with your GP if you are concerned. Okay, GP is fantastic. And later on, just as we're closing, I'll give some more suggestions of some helpful resources for everyone who's listening. But you know, the GP, if you're not sure of exactly what to do, that's absolutely fine. You can always link in there and get some really good advice. Encourage good sleep hygiene and support the formation of friendships as well. You know, we talked about the phone a little bit today, and there's that fear mongering for sure that I see coming through, being like, okay, phone, internet, it's all bad, let's take it away. But it is super important and integrated into society today. So we want to help to cultivate and allow the formation of really strong, positive relationships with social media that's there. And Jigsaw do some fantastic workshops that people can have a look at a little later if they'd like to, just on their website. If they wanted to learn more about social media, there's also loads of community-based workshops that go on there as well. And again, it's really important to take breaks for fun, to take breaks during study. You know, we want to be managing the fatigue and everything else that comes up. But when it comes to being that one good adult, being that one person that teenagers can come back to, listening is so important. That you have that skill to listen to the teenager who's coming to confide on you. You're going to help them find solutions to their problems. We're not jumping in or telling them what to do. We're working collaboratively with them. You know, we're almost showing them the way of how to reach a positive solution. Accepting the young people for who they are. It is, you know, this is a non-judgmental space that a one good adult provides for them. That is why the teenager will come back again for future advice as well. I'm going to challenge them to push their boundaries a little bit, open their minds. You know, this is their first time, where we might have experienced this before, whereas for them, it's their first time. So, you know, we want to think about how it felt for us at that time and what was helpful to us when we lent on someone for support there. You know, we want to help them, you know, be organized, learn those organizational skills, not putting those huge expectations on them, be like, hey, you need to do this and this. Teach them, show them, and plan trips away, plan that fun for them. Keep an eye on their routine. You know, check in with them, with them, and just being there is enough. Sometimes, a lot of the times, they don't want a solution. always ask, do you want my help on this? Sometimes listening is just enough. But what we have found, and what research is showing us, is that not having a one good adult was linked to higher levels of distress, antisocial behaviour, and increased behaviour for suicidal behaviours as well. But having that one good adult was linked to higher esteem, success in school, positive mental health, and they're more likely to seek help, and that is going to have a huge reduction on those risk-taking behaviors as well. So it's, if anyone wants to learn a little bit more about this, I strongly recommend you guys going onto the My World Survey 2.ie. The website there is absolutely fantastic. Looking at Jigsaw for some different workshops on supporting adolescent and young adults' mental health, and also there's some self-care there for parents as well. You can visit the GP, your counsellor, your psychologist. Spunout.ie is a fantastic youth information website as well, which has all of the resources that I'm mentioning today. And remember that community-based support there by Jigsaw is inclusive of 12 all the way up to 25. Super, super important for everyone to know that it's a free counselling service. But in short, guys, who can be a good adult? Absolutely anyone. You could be a neighbor, a teacher, a parent, a cousin. The key is to be available, reliable, listen and show empathy, so we're understanding their experience without judgment, and no rolling of the eyes, no tutting or general disapproval. We want to be mindful of this. We're creating that safe space where they have our full attention. We're not rushing them. We're listening to them, and then asking, would you like me to offer some advice, or do you want to hash this out together? Let's see, can we come up with a solution here? But yeah, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. I think we'll probably stop here before it gets super overwhelming. But was there any more final questions that you had for me or anything like that before we end?
Ciara, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great. It's fantastic. I can't wait to be on again.
It's always a pleasure to have you. And thank you very much to the listeners for listening to another episode to Zevo Talks, and we look forward to welcoming you again next time.